Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Own Your Choices, Own Your Life. And today I am very excited to have a good friend of mine in this podcast that I'm featuring. Her name is Diane. Now, Diane and I connected a number of years ago, and then life kind of took us different directions, and et cetera, et cetera. And in the last year and a half, we have come back together, basically, and reconnected as friends, like-minded. I love her heart, I love her soul, and I love what she is doing in this world. So there was no brainer for me to ask her to be one of the people that I interviewed on this podcast. So I'm going to give you a little bit of background on Diane before we get started. And here's a little bit of her bio. Diane is a facilitator and a coach who specializes in raising awareness of the role that we play in creating our own reality. A graduate of the social work program, she has dedicated her life to understanding human behavior and ultimately creating change where change is needed. As a result of many years of research and studying the needs of individuals, Diane is now offering elite wellness retreats that directly impact the mind, the body, and the soul. She has partnered with specialists in several sunny destinations to create epic adventures for all walks of life. You can find out more information on these retreats and how to customize your own by visiting ewgetaways.com. Now, on a personal note, Diane lives with her family in Waterloo, where she continues to work as a personal development coach. She's a mother of two beautiful teenagers. She claimed that they taught her everything she knows and attributes her success to them. She hopes to one day travel more extensively to the underprivileged countries and do what she loves to do most, and that is giving back. Until then, she will continue to share her love for people through her work as a coach and as a trainer. So thank you so much for joining me today, Diane.
Oh, Marsha, you're the best. Thank you so much. I'm so excited for you and for all your listeners, and such an honor to be here. So thank you.
Oh, awesome. My pleasure. So we're going to start with a little bit of lightness and a little bit of where are you right now? What are you doing right now that makes you the most passionate about the path that you're on?
So I'm proud and honored to say, I've taken on the role of founder and creative director of EW Getaways, and that's been most recent in my life. Mm-hmm. And living, I'd like to say I'm living the dream, not just yet, but I'm on my way. Because I am doing everything that I've always wanted to do. I've combined kind of my background in social work with my love of travel. I've come across incredible people that are supporting me and wanting to be in on this. And so we've managed to create this amazing program that we're now working on. And long hours, long days, but it's just so worth it. So it's been quite the journey. So
that is awesome. And how long have you been on this path of creating the Getaways?
Well, you know what, Marsha, I think probably, and others that are listening, it's a journey. I've been sitting on this dream probably for forever, probably wow. Far back as, in my teens, but I think you bury it and you just don't think that you're capable of doing it. So you just really don't act on it. You always hope and wish, but don't believe that you can do it. So, but in actual, as far as how long the wheels have been in motion and actually for real, where we've been doing stuff, it's probably been now close to 2 years that we've had this come to fruition, that it's actually happening for us. So.
See, I love how you shared how far back that goes and your thoughts of doing it, because I'm just going to say, I know that when you travel to one of your trips and you post it on Facebook that this is where you're going and everybody's like, oh, I wish I had your job. I wish I had this. And not realizing that this has been something you have worked on for a long time to create.
Yeah.
And do. It's not, and I've gotten a little bit of an inside idea of what your days are like. It's not, you don't go on these retreats and put your feet up and soak in the sun and do, right?
No, and and that's the funny part of everything we do, and we were blessed to do it. If I have an hour lunch break, at least I get to see the ocean as opposed to, so I'm not going to complain, but you're right. They are long days. They are days where we work with individuals to help create change in their life. So it's 12 to 14 hour days, but you know what? It's when you're doing something that you love doing and have the opportunity to be in a setting that that includes palm trees and
Oh.
then hey, just saying.
I'm just saying too. I've said that. I keep saying I look outside in the winter and I can't find my palm trees here. I don't know where they are.
No.
I miss seeing them. Yeah, they definitely guide my life. I love the ocean and the heat and the sun and the palm trees. It's something about that for the headspace.
And there is. I mean, they talk about energy in general, and that's the most peaceful place, the most where in terms of it being the calmest is you need to be around water and ocean, and that's where you find the best vibration. So that's a big part of the component of our retreat as well. So there's a reason, there's a method to our madness.
Always there's a method. You just said that this has been about 2 years that you have been working in this area. So where was the turning point that pointed you into this direction?
Do you know what, Marcia? So it's funny because my life really was always about, just to give you a bit of a background, so I come from a European background, and very strict, very, God bless my parents. I love them, and I have nothing bad to say about them, but they come into, they came from a war-torn country where they had all kinds of trauma and issues happen where they were hurt by people. So when I came into this world, they wanted to protect me. So they gave me all these messages that they had, they wanted to say, you need to be careful because there's bad people out there. Well, that was their situation. It wasn't mine. But when you're little, you don't know any different. So you take that on. And as an adult, I grew up being, I wasn't emotionally available to anybody. So, because I didn't trust anybody. So it kind of, when you look at some of the messages that I grew up with, I really didn't have say in a lot of what I did because it was all mapped out for me. And that was mapped out not because they were being mean or because, every parent wants the best for their child.
Absolutely.
But they wanted to keep me from being hurt or whatever they went through. And so that's kind of how my life went. I followed what I was told. My dad used to say to me, it was a message on my whiteboard, and it was unless you have money, you really won't be successful in life. And people really, they don't care. Like, people don't care about your story. So you should really keep it to yourself. So I really felt, I truly, as an adult, believe that I shouldn't be doing what I want to be doing. My heart always said that I wanted to work with people and help create change, but it wasn't something that was going to make me money, so to speak. Or my dad would say, it has to be something that will make you money in order to be successful. So I went through high school. I really didn't know what my purpose was. I wasn't motivated by money, but I didn't want to disappoint. I know all of you know what that feels like, right?
Absolutely.
Right? Nobody wants to disappoint their parents. And so I would do what I was told to do, but I really I had a horrible attitude. So my marks reflected that. I didn't have friends because I didn't trust people. And so eventually I did go to university. I ended up getting the job that I wanted. And it was a lot of money at that time. And I had a pension. And I was like, oh my gosh, look at me. I'm successful. And 2 years later, I found myself so unbelievably depressed. And I couldn't figure it out. And I was embarrassed. And my parents would be like, oh my gosh, you have everything. What do you mean? And you just kept it inside, and you thought there's something missing. My soul wasn't alive. And it was one of those where you have everything, but you have nothing at all. And I realized at that point that while I was successful, I was living the definition of success, but it wasn't my definition. It was my dad's.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And
exactly.
That was the start of something. It was it tweaked, but then you've still got that friction from others and going, well, what do you mean you can't do anything different? And that's not possible. And in your whiteboard, those messages, your paradigms, those beliefs are telling you, yeah, don't try anything different. And so, I went through life just kind of coasting. And what I realized, I wasn't aware of my journey. I was merely existing. Mm-hmm. And that was huge for me. And that kind of, the pivotal point for me was, it would be now almost 7 years. It's going to be in August, where we got the dreaded call that no parent ever wants to get. And that was that we had suddenly lost my stepson, which is my husband's firstborn child. He's the brother to my children. Yeah. And we lost him suddenly, and my life came to a crashing halt. And at that point, that was the pivotal moment for us, where things started to change, and I became aware of my journey. I wasn't just existing anymore. So.
Wow, there's so many pieces to that. Thank you for sharing that, because I know there's a lot. That's a painful memory, obviously. I appreciate you sharing that. There's so many nuggets there that I really want to touch on. And I think that most people can relate that it becomes something tragic that helps us to say, okay, maybe I shouldn't just exist. Maybe I should do more. Maybe I am not happy. And that is something that does happen, that kind of redirects us or steers us in different directions, or at least maybe we just listen a little bit more than what we did. And I think back to, you speaking of your parents, and I do believe that, a lot of that generation, because I'm sure they'd say things about us too, but that generation was about, look for the job of security, because they had lived without for a long time. And being happy at your job wasn't the priority. It was like, what can you get that's going to guarantee a paycheck? It needs to be a good, steady job, and you don't ask questions, and you certainly don't change jobs.
Yes.
You just don't do things like that. And so it was, I can understand that, because that's what I think a lot of us grew up with. And it's not anything bad. It's just that's how they were raised, and that's what they knew.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I agree with you. And that's how I'd always believed, coming from a European, there's a lot of, women in Europe. My mom used to say to me, well, the wife has to stay home and take care of the children and the house and cook and clean. And that's all she ever knew. Those were her messages. That was her belief system. So when I dreamed about traveling and doing work abroad, she would say, well, what about your family? What about your family? And then the guilt comes in, and you go, you're right. And so you bury that dream, that vision, because you're like, you're right. Oh my gosh. And that's a horrible thing to do. And when you don't believe that you deserve something, and that's the key to this too, Marsha, that I learned, is that you can dream it and see it. But until you believe that you deserve it, that you deserve to live the life that you have always envisioned, it won't happen. Mm-hmm. Because it just, you won't bring the people into your life that you need to bring in for that to happen, because you're not worthy, right?
Well, and you actually, correct me if I'm wrong, but you actually end up even self-sabotaging to a point that, because it's like you don't believe it can happen. So then all of a sudden these barriers come up, and you're like, oh, see, I guess I'm not supposed to. Or it's the first little tiny hurdle that feels like, oh, that's a stop sign. We can't go that way because that's not going to work. Meanwhile, there's like bumps on every single road we're on, but we self-sabotage because we don't believe. And I would say, as far as, I've been coaching a lot of women lately, and I think it's a good generalization to say that belief in self is one of the first things that we start to work on. So if the belief in self isn't there, I think this ties in or segues into what you keep referring to as the whiteboard. I've heard you speak at Mo Mondays, and you have a wonderful talk on the whiteboard of life. So talk to us about the whiteboard and how that can have an impact on our belief on ourselves, in ourselves.
You know what, Marsha, that is my be all to end all. Like, I live by my whiteboard of life. Mm-hmm. And essentially what it is, and I'm a visual person, so this analogy worked for me. And it was just that we all come into this world with what I refer to as a whiteboard. And essentially what we're talking about is kind of your subconscious mind, but for the sake of a visual. And this whiteboard is clean. There's nothing, there are no messages on our board. Mm-hmm. And we don't judge. We're limitless in terms of our abilities. That's why little kids, they want to be superheroes when they're little.
Astronauts and all these things, right?
Yeah. Right? But then somewhere along the line, we expose our whiteboard to people, and people write messages on our board. And they tell us, are you crazy? You can't do that. And I've seen other people and they didn't succeed, so you shouldn't. So those are all messages that slowly start getting put on your board. And the main ones that come on are the ones from your parents at the very beginning of your life. They want to shape you into the little people that they've always wanted you to be. And there's nothing wrong with that. But the problem is that they have whiteboards, they have messages that don't necessarily pertain to our life at the moment. So again, my dad, God bless him, he wanted to protect his little girl. He was all his life. So he said, don't trust anybody. People will hurt you. People don't care what you have to say. He wasn't saying maliciously. He was just saying, this is just the way it is, honey. And I said, okay, Daddy. And I believed him.
Of course you did.
My mom would put messages on my board. She was hurt as a child. She was disappointed. So she would say to me, honey, don't ever get excited about anything because bad things will happen. Right? How many of us have had that? I'm sure your viewers out there, they're probably like, me, oh my God. You're told not to be excited. And you don't question what's going to happen. You just believe it. So as an adult, I literally watched my life go by, not excited because I feared that bad things would happen. And like you said, as experiences happen, as things happen, it gets posted on your board. So I did bad in high school. I got a 60 average. That went on my board. That then defined me, and it created a story in my head. I said I wasn't smart enough. I wasn't good enough. And then I would all of a sudden, so you know what happened? I was 27. I got pregnant with our boy. And I was over the moon. For anybody out there that's first time pregnancy, you remember peeing and you see the 2 lines and you're like, whoa, we did it. And we were excited. And my mom, the first thing she said to me, she says, oh my God, please don't be excited. Something bad is going to happen. I said, Mom, I am going to be, this is the biggest, most, And so we found out we're going to have a boy. And we were excited, and I named him Tyler, and just loving it. And at 32 weeks, 8 weeks before he was due, he came into this world unexpectedly. And within a half an hour, the doctors came to us and said, we're so sorry, like there's something wrong with his heart, and we don't think he's going to make it.
Oh, so you just for a second, just pause on that. And I think everybody can relate and feel that you go from this peak of like, okay, first he's born early, which is, a little scary, obviously. And then you hear that message from the doctor and it's like, oh my gosh, gosh. Yeah.
And worse yet, you say, oh my God,
what did I do?
I was told not to be excited. That's what happens. And you see, bad things will happen. And so that's where I refer back to this whiteboard. You go back to your whiteboard and all those things that were written on your whiteboard that you were told, you can't do this. You failed before. You're not smart enough. Don't get excited. Something bad will happen. That just validated everything for me. And so at that point in my life, I remember literally the whiteboard was like in front of me, never mind beside me, but it governed my every single move, my every thought, every single thing that I wanted to do. I would refer to my whiteboard. I'd look at it and I go, no, I can't. I failed before. I can't do this again. And it reminds you constantly. Those messages are there, and they don't let you make any decision until you refer to it. So I came. That was my big aha moment after we had lost Jay, and I spent a year being angry. And people say it's okay to be angry. You're grieving, but what happened was that I was so full of toxins. I was so sick, and Marsha, others. Yeah, like you produce those chemicals.
Yep.
And it's almost like it's kind of a weird thing. You become addicted to that because you're producing adrenaline, and then there's not enough adrenaline in you. So you're subconsciously looking for more crap in your life so that, you keep that fight or flight going.
It's a sabotage again. I think you fall right back into that self-sabotage again. I do. I agree. Yeah.
Yes.
Because even when there's a glimmer of happiness, then it's like, okay, but the shoe's going to drop. I know it's going to drop. When's it going to drop? Like and you don't live there. You don't even enjoy the happiness because you're waiting for the next step to happen.
Yes. And that's what I always refer to as my whiteboard. Your whiteboard is what reminds you. Your whiteboard is beside you at all times saying, don't do it. You can't do it. You've done this before. Don't. And so it's you constantly, like you said, you start sabotaging because your whiteboard is telling you already you can't do it. Yeah. So you listen to it. And you've got this thing called intuition, and it's that little voice that tells you, come on, you got this. But you literally will shut that voice up because your whiteboard messages are now your belief system. That's what you believe. It's the stories that you create. And so I realized that I carried this all along. And I remember thinking, it was my pivot. That was the big moment. One of the two was when I was so toxic. And I remember thinking to myself, I can't do this anymore. And I came across this, it was a Hay House event, and it was in BC. And I remember saying, I gotta go. And I said to my husband, I said, I got to get on a plane and go. And he's like, okay. And I just knew that I had to get myself out of the situation that I was in my life, in the four walls that I was in, and just be somewhere else. And I'm telling you, that was the moment. I had an experience with Brian Weiss. He did meditation. And that's when I learned the importance of quieting your mind and what it means when the higher power kind of takes over, and the energies of the world, your God, your universe, whoever you want to call it, that's when they come and they help you, when you quiet yourself. And that's what happened to me that moment. And I heard a voice, I heard however you want to place it. It's hard to explain, but I felt that it said, it's going to be okay. And at that moment, that was the moment that I released all anger, all toxins, all blame, all guilt, all victim feeling, whatever I was feeling, and I was cleansed. And that was the big moment in my life, was when I realized that you have to quiet your mind. It's easier said than done.
Oh, it's actually incredibly difficult.
It's incredibly. I've talked to so many people like, how do you meditate? And it's like, I got voices in my head, and tasks, and I got to do this, and we got to take out the roast for dinner, and then we got to take the kids to dance, and then, oh God, we need something from this grocery store, and how do you do it? And that I didn't know, I didn't realize, and that's when all my anger, everything had disappeared at that moment, when he had done this past life regression and kind of meditation, and I came home a new person. And but we all know that you change and go, oh my gosh, there's this new me, and then you're back in your environment, and
it's the same. The environment's the same.
Same people, same thoughts, same everything, and slowly it chips away at you. And I remember going and saying to myself, I believe that I can do this. I got this. I believe. And I use the word believe everywhere. I believe all over my office. I believe. But it wasn't until the moment, and I'll just cut this story short, it was the moment that my son, which was 2 years ago, actually 2 years tomorrow, believe it or not.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Wow. Where I was 2 years today versus where I am exactly right this moment, I think is just kind of, that's cool.
Ironic.
Yeah. But it was the moment that they took him and wheeled him. And Marsha, you've heard this story. I've told you before. When they wheeled him through the operating doors, and I knew at that moment that I could no longer just hope and wish, that I had to believe that he would come out. And the true sense of believe, not just throwing it out there going, I believe, because I think in the past, my belief was really hoping and wishing. That was the difference. And so when you're able to attach something that significant, that powerful, that emotion, that's when you learn what the term believe means. And that's how I've been living my life from that moment, because everything that I do right now, when I say I believe that I can do it, I truly mean it.
I know you do. I can see it in you. I can see it in your energy, and it's you can completely see it and hear it, and that's what's important. And for anybody who was listening just now, I just want to. So what did Tyler have to go through when he was like 2 years ago?
Open heart surgery.
Right.
Yeah. So he was born with a congenital heart disease. He's lived with it all his life. So we were always on edge. And that was another message on my board, that I've done something wrong. It was because I was excited and something bad happened to me. I was being punished. And so he lived with a heart condition all his life. And so 2 years ago, they said that it was time. And at 17 years old, no child, no teen should ever have to face their mortality like that. And so as a parent, you're helpless. Like, yeah, I got nothing. What do you say to your kid when he says, I don't see my life, I don't see my future, mom? When they're little, they don't understand, but when he's 17 and he's supposed to be planning his career and his life and what he wants, and he's saying, I'm going in for open heart surgery and I don't even know if I'm coming out. That was a huge, huge shift in my life. And that's a lot of what I do now is based on kind of that moment and understanding that there's so much more to life than that blueprint that we think we have to follow, right?
Well, there absolutely is. And it's just I think that some of the key words you said there that I really hope land for people is that, you know, you had to change your language from hope and wish, and understand there's nothing wrong with hoping and wishing, but it is very passive to believing, like actively. You can feel the difference in energy that all of a sudden it was like, you know, as his parent, you don't want to sit by the sidelines and go, well, I hope it's going to work out. Like, if you can't do that, he needs your energy to say, no, I believe that this is going to turn out. And so it's just it's a change in words, but it's a big change in energy.
Yes,
right?
absolutely. And you know, I referred to, you know, when I went to the Hay House event and I had that moment where my whole mind was actually shut down, like where I silenced everything, and that was when I heard that kind of voice or felt it, where it said it was going to be okay. And that was the same moment when he was going through those doors. I was able to quiet my mind and truly tap into the greater power. And that's when I heard, do you believe, yes or no? Yeah. And that was when I had to answer it. There was no maybe. There was no, yeah, I hope. No, it was, do you believe, yes or no? And when I said yes, I literally felt chills in my body, and I thought, no, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And you're right, Marcia. It's very important to hope and wish. Of course. That's where it all starts. Right. You hope something, you wish something. Oh my gosh. And that's what creates the vision when you hope and wish and dream. But at the end, do you believe? Now, do you believe that you deserve this and that you're going to get it? And then as soon as you say yes, then things start coming your way, and people come into your life, and you're a good example of that. You came into my life, and yeah, I mean,
we laugh because it's just been so it's been funny, it's been interesting, and it's timely, right? It's timely. I can say without a doubt that when I decided to be open and going through my own personal demons, and I took on the practice of yoga, which was, if I think back to my earlier days of yoga, I wish there was some video or something, because it's pretty darn funny. Yes. Monkey brain is an understatement. It's an understatement. It was like, I just had to get off my mat because my head was going 1,000 directions at once. Yeah. And I had to learn how to stay present. So what I resisted the most was exactly what I needed. And I would learn how to quiet that brain down. And when I did that, instead of fighting and saying, you know, come on, smarten up, slow your head down, do this, I take it in a different manner, and I laugh at myself, and I'm like, okay, I understand you're having a hard time today. I understand that this is difficult for you to sit still, but it's all good. It's all good. And when I could slow down enough, I then shifted to saying that, you know, I am ready for anyone who is going to come into my life to help me to get to the next step, because I know I can't do it on my own. I just knew I'm strong, I'm stubborn, I'm all those things, but I knew I was not going to get to where I needed to alone. And I mean, it was true, because I am extremely blessed with a huge tribe of girlfriends, friends, family that I could literally call on at any minute. And I even narrated a whole chapter in my book, because that's how important it is. When you do that, you end up calling more people into your life because you're open. And as you change and evolve, then you call different people in, and you call different people in. And sometimes we're so stuck on the little circle or tribe that we have, and we think like, but we're on the sum of the 5 people. Income, beliefs, all those things, you really are. So if you want to grow yourself, you might have to step out a little bit. And I know it's scary to anybody listening. I do know it's scary, and Diane can attest that it's scary, but it is 1,000% worth it to step out, because you meet some amazing people.
I agree. And you know what, Marcia, I'm just bringing that whole whiteboard, because people say, well, how do you start? Where do you, I don't, because it sounds great.
Yep.
But I always say to people, look at your whiteboard, because everybody's got one.
Yep.
Have a look at it, and what are the messages on your board? The best way, and my aha moment was when I realized that I own a whiteboard eraser and I can use it at any time that I want. I'm like, what? Nobody told me that.
I had no idea.
Right?
Yep.
So we have a whiteboard eraser. You go and you erase every single message on that board that no longer applies to you. And take your marker and start writing messages on the board that you feel you deserve, that that are going to catapult you into the next phase of your life.
Right.
And that's where you start. Because as long as you have those messages on your board, you will continue to refer to them. And you know what? I find that even when you do erase them, there's that little stain, that you can still see. Yeah, it still wants to remind you, like, damn you, get the bleach out. Bleach your whiteboard if you have to. That's what I say. And it's, you know what? I'm telling you, it is phenomenal what it means to erase those messages and pick the ones that you want and hang on to that marker, and don't give that marker to anybody that you don't feel is going to write an appropriate message on your board. Right? But having said all that, when you have children and you have people in your life, we tend to then want to tell them what to do. And we have to recognize that they too have whiteboards, and that they should write their own messages based on what they see and how they want. And that's a hard thing as a parent to do as well, is we just want to protect them. We want to make it better. We know we've been hurt. Right? And we're leaving messages on their board, and that's not their message. That's not their definition. So, and that's a hard pill to swallow, let me tell you. And with 16 and a 19-year-old, and you see the stuff they do, and you go, oh God. But it's not, right? It's just as we have to take ownership for our stuff, they have to take ownership for theirs too, right?
I don't think you could have said that more beautifully, because that's a message that I have shared and spoke with my own kids, spoke with other kids, that at the end of the day, my life will be what I choose to create. My life will be what I choose to do, what I choose to step out and do. And they have the same opportunity. Yeah. They have the exact same opportunity. And the beautiful thing is that if you hit a point in your life and you're like, boy, I do not like the direction of where this is going. I do not like what it's creating. A lot of people spend a lot of time in that moment going like, you should know better. Why did you do this? Da, 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 da. And I work with women. I'm like, okay, so you recognize it. You're aware of it. Let it go. Let it go. No judgment, no nothing. Yeah. Just make a different choice. It's just a different choice. And you really only are one step, one choice away from a completely different life. And I know that sounds airy-fairy, but it really is. It comes down to really, that's why the name of this spoke to me so much, is just owning your choices. And what I really want people to understand is I think you got to a point in your life where you went, okay, I am going to have my own whiteboard. I am going to put my own words on it. I'm going to choose what goes on it. So you really started to own it. It's like you said, that's my board. That's what I'm going to put on it.
Yeah. And you're right. I took ownership for it, and I decided that I wanted to live a certain way, and I had this vision, and I was going to do it without guilt or fear. And that's what I realized, that my whole life I had based a lot of my decisions on guilt and fear. I was guilty. I'd feel guilty if I did something. I'd feel guilty if I went did a trip with a corporate group because my children are home. I felt guilty. And it wasn't until I heard my 16-year-old say to me, she said, Mom, and this is coming without, I'm always aware that my kids have their own whiteboard and I have mine, and I try to, and she said, Mom, I want to be just like you. When you grow up, you're so strong. You're doing what you want to be doing. And I thought, wow. Yeah. And that was not anything that I pushed on her to say, Lauren, this is a really good job. You should really do it. This is, because she's her own person. She loves her own thing. But I think she found the strength in me. She looks and sees, she watches what I do. So I don't use words to say to her, you need to do this or this. I just do my own thing, and I try to be as authentic as possible. And like you said, the best way that we can ever be, we're role models for them. And love yourself and teach them that way. When you love and say, I love myself and this is what I want, without neglecting people. I mean, you don't want to neglect.
No, we're not ego driven. No.
Life as a parent or whatever. Right. But man, I tell you, when you get feedback like that from them and saying, okay, so they're watching. They're picking up what they want to put on their whiteboard and their own messages. So that was probably the greatest gift for me, was to hear that from her and know that whatever it is that I'm doing, that she's watching. So I watch everything that we do, right?
Of course they do. They certainly do. I could not agree with you more on that.
Yeah.
If I just want to, like, what message would you like to give to people out there who are struggling? They're listening, and this is, I can paint a picture. They're listening to it and they're like, oh, that's so great for her.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, yeah, that doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
You know, she's lucky. She's strong. Like all those things. What message would you like to pass on to somebody who is really in the throes of struggling right now, loves what you're saying, but can't even figure out where to start?
Yeah, I agree. And that was me as well. You look at the people and you go, oh, but they have all this and this, there's no way that I could ever reach where they're at. And I've noticed that everybody wakes up in the morning with messy hair, and everybody has to put their pants on one way or another. Like
same way, one at a time.
I don't care who you are or what kind of money you have. We all have to get up in our jammies, right? So that's what makes us all the same. And I think the greatest message, you know what? I love analogies, and for me, this one really resonated, and hopefully it does for the listeners as well. But one, if you look at your life, just have a look at your life, and I kind of compare it to a quilt. And a quilt, they're beautiful pieces. They're masterpieces, really. You pay a lot of money for quilts, like the ones in Elmira, the Mennonites make.
Yep.
Made up of individual squares. Those squares are like events in our life. And you have to look at each and every event that happens in your life, good or bad, is designed it's meant to be a part of the bigger picture, like the quilt. So a quilt, you might look at it and pull one individual square on that quilt, and you might go, that's ugly. That's an ugly square. I don't like this patch. But when you put it with the others, it creates this amazing masterpiece. And that's like your life, every single thing that happens. So remember, everything from, the great event that you went to literally, I talk about, I use this example, like, when you're running really fast, you've got to get out the house and you take the corner too fast and you kick the couch and you bust your toe for the 10th time. Like, that's an event. It's designed to what the higher power that has the picture in mind. It's trying to slow you down and try to have you not be wherever it was that you needed to be at that moment. Because, and that's an event. So, so thank your couch for busting your toe. Because, right? Thank you, couch, because my toe looks awesome now with my sandals.
That's awesome. I love that, because you can't love yourself truthfully until you can love every experience that makes you who you are.
Yes.
And that includes the nasty ones. So people say, how do I know that I am healing or I have healed? I'm like, when you can look at some of the worst days of your life and go, wow, that really contributed to who I am. And not hate it, not begrudge it, and just say that is part of who I am. I mean, I learned those lessons because of those days.
Right? And you wouldn't be thinking the way you're thinking this very moment. And all the listeners out there right now, you're now thinking. I know you guys are all like thinking.
Oh, I know too.
And your eyes are going to, and you're like, And that's shifting you. Yeah. So every moment that happens, every experience is seriously shifting you, and it puts you in front of us now. And now you've heard something that we've said, and that's going to shift, and it's going to kind of ultimately go from there. But my greatest advice, honestly, that helped catapult me into where I am, and that finally where I said, I deserve this, was when I seriously sat down and I looked at the messages on my board, for one, and erased them and created new messages. And they weren't as easy as you think. Like, writing those new messages, it's like, I don't know. But they need to go on there so that you can make reference to them. You see, it is whatever your mind sees, that's what it believes. And so if it sees that there's messages there that say you're a loser, you're a failure, then that's exactly what's going to happen. So get rid of those darn messages, write new ones, and also be aware of every single event that happens in your life, and that it's meant to bring you to the next level, not punish you. Mm-hmm. That was my big lesson, was my boy did not come into this world with a heart disease to punish me, that I was being punished. That was the greatest lesson in my life, because he's now 19 and he's changing lives with his story. And I've become, because of him, I'm humble, mm-hmm. and I'm grateful for everything that I have. That was the message out of that, is to be grateful and practice gratitude every day. So that's exactly what I do. So.
Oh, I love that. That is awesome. I have 2 quick questions that I want to ask you, but I just want people to know where they can reach you. So what's the best way to connect with you? If they say, you know what, I would love to know how to go on a getaway. And
we customize all these retreats. So we have a bunch of different ones. We have parent team retreats. We have corporate retreats. We do women's retreats. That's coming up and then of course, Marsha, well, we can talk more about that, but Marsha, we have coaches retreats too, just saying.
Some really cool things coming up.
And so you can visit me. We're just revamping our website to have it a little more interactive. But right now you can go to www.ewgetaways.com, mm-hmm. or you can reach me at Diane at ewgetaways.com.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Love to answer any questions or anything that has stirred anybody's mind. It's definitely about looking at your mind, your body, and your soul in order to, it's the whole package, really. So.
Well, there's no reason, there's no surprise why we connected, and why I love that, and I love what you were doing, because the mind, body, and soul is everything. It is. Yes. Fitness is a piece of what you do. Mind, body, and soul is truly everything. And for anybody who is wondering, I can say that it takes a long time to evolve and change, but it definitely, I can attribute and say gratitude for a number of different experiences that I have gone to, and coaches and events and things that I have done. So, if you're in the mindset that you want to learn and expose yourself and grow, then this is definitely an event that you'd want to reach out to.
Yeah, we're so blessed to have been able to create this platform for even people like yourself, Marsha, the people in the world that want to create or help create change or get the message out. That's, we've created that platform to allow people like yourself and others who can create that change. And so that's where I feel blessed, because that's where I feel that I'm serving others in that sense too.
I love it.
A trip, it's an experience. So we're excited to be on this journey with you as well, Marsha.
No, it's going to be very exciting. So there's more information coming out very shortly, but to say I'm excited is an understatement. So yes. If you, 2 quick questions for you, Diane. If you could go back to any version of your younger self, what message would you share? And you could pick any age. I've had people go back to very young ages, but think of different pivotal points. Is there a message that you would just go back and you would share with your younger self?
That I would tell my younger self? Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah. I think as a child, I don't think, I just kind of coasted, because we still have these, we have imagination, and we play with our imaginary friends. I think it was okay then. I didn't realize, but I think it would be more going back to when I was a teenager, mm-hmm. and that's what touches my heart right now. That's why I do the teen retreats, is because if I had somebody say to me that your voice matters, mm-hmm. That would have taken me a long way. I think that I really truly believe that what I had to offer, unless I reached a certain status in life, I really didn't matter. So I was always reaching for that something more in order for me to be something or someone. I didn't even know who, but it was this status that I had to reach in order to be important, or that my message was. So I would go back to when I was a teenager. I think that was my greatest struggle in life, and say, you know what? your voice matters. So just tell your story. What is it? And go with your intuition, which was my need to always want to help people. So
I love that. Thank you so much. That's a beautiful message.
mm-hmm.
Last question for you. What lesson in your life are you most grateful for?
Oh my gosh, I'm going to say every lesson, to be honest. I know that may seem kind of airy-fairy on the fence, but it's not. It's actually, I truly am saying I can't pinpoint one or the other because they've created me. It's like looking at the quilt. Which patch makes the quilt look the best? There isn't one. You put them together. And so all my lessons, my Tyler being born with his heart condition, Jay losing his life at such a young age, oh my gosh, I mean, I don't even have, they're all listed. They're all a part of who I am. And I don't think I could pick one particular one, to be honest, because I truly believe they're squares, they're patches in your life that all create the bigger picture. So. Wow.
Thank you for that. Honestly, I love that analogy because that analogy tells me like, it's just so good because we can't love ourselves unless we love everything that contributed to who we are. And as we spoke before we started recording, we both kind of follow that same belief set that like we learn the most about ourselves through adversities. We really do. We learn our strengths. We learn what we do or do not want, who we want to surround ourselves with. When we tap in, we learn a ton through adversities. So we can't, I mean, of course nobody wants adversities. Nobody does, but they're a part of life. So we have to kind of say, okay, what can I pull from that? What can I learn from that? What can I do with that? And embrace and accept that it's a part of us. It is 100% a part of us.
It is. And, I just want to add to that, Marcia, is that when you look at your adversities in life, we do learn what we don't want in life, right? And right. That's, I mastered that. I mastered, by the time I was in my 30s, I knew what I didn't want.
Right.
But I didn't know what I did want. And that was because I didn't know how to tap into that little voice, the intuition, because I always just followed the messages that were given. So I knew what I didn't want, but I honestly didn't know what I wanted. And there's a huge difference there. So learning to listen to that inner voice, that people that say, oh, well, that's just my gut feeling. No, that's not. No, that's legit. That's the true you that wants to come out. But we quite often will just say, shh, be quiet. Stop talking. Like there's that voice going, you got this, go, do it. And you're like, no. And so I've learned that when you listen to that, that's when you learn what you do want. And,
that's awesome.
And like you said, then you combine the self-love, the deserving, that I believe that I deserve this, and creating those messages for yourself. So,
well, I cannot thank you enough for sharing with us. And as somebody who knows you fairly well, I would say it's interesting, and I really want people to understand that Diane definitely believes and follows and lives her life the way that she wants. So to hear how much of a hold your old whiteboard had on you is almost it's almost bizarre to me, because that's not the Diane that I see at all. So you really made those changes in your life and created what you wanted to create, and it is impacting a lot of people around you, which is exactly what I love. One of the things I love most is because our world is not about us. I think it's about what we're here to step into our gifts and do. And that's where the ripple starts. And I mean, we all have the opportunity to be part of the ripple. It's not, there's not special people that get it. We all have that opportunity once we tap into and listen to what it is that we want.
Yeah, everybody has a story. You all have a story, and that's what causes the ripple effect. Those stories are what change lives, not education, not any of that. It's your story. And I love the thing I love about you most, Marcia, is when you use the term standing on your story, not in your story. And bless you for that, for saying that to people out there, all the listeners. It's true. Stand on your story, use your voice, and that's where the changes happen. So thank you for doing what you do. I have goosebumps, actually.
I have goosebumps too.
Everybody out there got goosebumps. We're good.
Better than crying. But anyways, I do have, thank you so much for that. That's a really, that phrase was a game changer for me when I finally realized that I could choose to stand in it
Yep.
in it or stand on it. And we all know if I stand on it and if everyone else stands on it, it's a massive shift in power. Massive shift in
Huge.
power.
I agree.
Yeah.
And that's what we're about to do. I think we're about to make some epic changes in the next few months. And the listeners, they need to tune in. Marsha slowly leaks out the information.
Yes. It will be very exciting. So we will be sharing that very soon. So
Awesome.
I honestly, I just want to wrap up. I want to thank you so much for sharing your energy, your time, and your soul with everyone today, because I know it makes a difference. And I know there's someone out there who hearing this message goes, oh my goodness. And you just flicked a light bulb for them, which is really what we want to start to do. So I want to thank you for being real and authentic and sharing your story with everyone today, and for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Marsha.
You are welcome. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. And if this speaks to you, please feel free to share it. Diane has so many nuggets that she has shared in this episode today. So it's been my pleasure to have you join us today. And please tune in for another episode of Own Your Choices, Own Your Life. Have an amazing day.